Good morning, Social 7. Okay, so we are continuing talking about the South today. This time we're going to talk about the slaves. So we have talked about their growing crops, and we talked about Eli Whitney and the invention of the cotton gin. So, some people in the South had plantations, which were great, big, huge farms. Those people unfortunately thought that the only way to manage those plantations were to have slaves work on them. So, that is what we're going to talk about today, and a little bit more about the Southern society and culture. Yes, I know what you're thinking. There's only one vocab word in the gray box. There is not one Google form question. There are actually 7. So, Southern society and culture. Only about 1/3 of all Southerners owned slaves. Far fewer were actually wealthy planters. However, those few planters were among the most influential Southern citizens, and many were political leaders. On the vast plantations, the planter ran the farm business. A wealthy planter would have overseers to help him. The planter's wife ran the household, which included many house slaves. She was also in charge of important social events such as dances and dinners. Many Southern farmers were Yemen. Yemen owned small farms averaging about 100 acres, and often they worked side by side with the few slaves they might own. Many white Southerners were poor. They owned no slaves at all. Often they lived on land that could not grow crops. These farmers were at the bottom of the economic ladder. Religion was central to Southern life. One reason was its social impact. Often farm families saw their neighbors only at church functions. Some Southerners also believed that Christianity justified slavery, a belief not shared by Christians in the North. The economy of the South also depends on the businesses conducted in its busy cities. As in northern cities, southern cities provided many services to residents, including water systems and street maintenance. Southern cities used slave labor too. Businesses either owned slaves or hired them out from nearby planters. Free African Americans and discrimination. Not all African Americans in the South were slaves. Some were free. Some had been born free. Others had bought their freedom from their slave owners or had run away. More than 250,000 free African Americans lived in the South by 1860. Most lived in the countryside and worked as paid laborers on plantations and farms. Free African Americans who lived in cities worked in a variety of jobs, mostly as skilled artisans. Southern states passed laws that limited the rights of free African Americans. For example, in some places they could not vote or hold certain jobs. They were not allowed to live where they chose or travel freely. This discrimination existed because some Southerners were concerned about the presence of free African Americans. They worried that those who were free would incite those who were enslaved to rise up against slaveholders. Incite is almost the same thing as like to start. So they were worried that the free African Americans would start a riot or would start a revolt with the enslaved African Americans. They believed that free African Americans posed a threat to the institution of slavery. Some Southerners believed that free African Americans could not survive outside of slavery. They used this as justification for slavery. However, if free African Americans could support themselves, then Southern thinking could be proved wrong. Okay, Social 7, that is social studies for today. So now you just need to jump over to that Google form, answer the 7 questions, and you're done for today. But I will be back tomorrow, Wednesday, with a review day. Have a great Tuesday. Bye.